Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel, Kim, and Chris. On today's tour catch up,
Rybakina secures her second Porsche with Stuttgart crown,
Shelton and Feast win 500 titles.
and injury concerns for Carlos Alcaraz ahead of the French Open.
Chris, today is the 20th of April. We are here to catch up on the week in tennis at Tennis Weekly HQ. Lots to talk through today, including Rybakina winning another fancy Porsche car with claiming her second Stuttgart title. Ben Shelton doing what I guess not many Americans have done before, which is, win a European clay court title. And also, picking up another 500 title win. And I realized in my opener, I said that both Shelton and Feast have won 500 titles, which might make it sound like they've been doing rather a lot of winning over the last week. But just to clarify, it's only been one title they've won each this past week, not 500. They just have won titles of a 500 points category. So I guess that could have been interpreted in different ways.
I mean, 500's a lot, Kim. Surely they're.
It's more than Roger Federer or
It
Novak
is, yes.
Djokovic.
The title leaders are now Feast and Shelton after one week on the clay.
I know, like the whole of the tennis world has just turned its head, and Ben Shelton and Arthur Feast are like the top of the.
Sinkaraz
Forget
who?
Federer, forget Jimmy Connors. Who cares about them? It's Ben Shelton and Arthur Feast. Yeah, I have to edit like how we say those things in the future because I just, on reflection, I was like, that sounds a bit silly. But yeah, Joel isn't here today, is he? We've got lots to catch up on, including, well, there's been a doping gate concerns over Markéta Vondroušová. I know you love a bit of doping scandal, shall we say, in the nicest way.
Don't thrive on misfortune, but I do find them meaty topics to talk about. Yes,
interesting. So that's in the second half. We'll also talk about the French Open. They are not doing various things this year. They're sticking to their own ways, and we'll be discussing all of kind of the latest news from Roland-Garros as we're only a few weeks away now. And yeah, obviously capping off this week in tournaments and previewing the Madrid Open, which gets underway as we speak, essentially. So lots to cover today. Joel is in Valencia, so he is not able to join us this week, sadly. He's having a well-earned few days away, but he did text us to say he's tempted to go to Madrid by train to sneak off to sort of try and see a bit of tennis there, or maybe go to the Laureus Awards.
Ooh, that's more him, isn't it?
Joel gate crashing the red carpet there, maybe for Tennis Weekly.
Yeah, I mean, Djokovic is hosting, so tennis definitely does have a role. I'm sure maybe he can try and get his way in there. But I felt like Joel didn't know that Madrid was not that far from Valencia. I feel like he learned in real time and then messaged us and said, you know what, maybe I can go and see some qualifying matches or something. So I don't think he will, but he is partial to a little bit of a qualifying moment, like Wimbledon he likes, or Metz famously.
Yeah, I mean, Joel will get down and dirty at qualifying if he needs to. But that sounds a bit wrong, but I'm sure he's out enjoying the spoils in Valencia. I think he was at the aquarium today, so he's found Nemo. Sort of lots of nice fish at the aquarium there. But yeah, what's caught your attention this week, Chris? Because before we delve into the kind of latest results from tournaments and the winners and all those 500 titles, what's caught your eye this week?
Well, I thought I'd do something nice, and as a tribute to Joel not being here, I thought I'd represent what probably caught his eye this week, and it's the fact that Garbiñe Muguruza did tease a return to the tour. She was kind of playing tennis and said, "See you in Madrid." She was having us on, but she wasn't completely misleading us because she's been named as the co-tournament director of the Madrid Open, so she'll be doing that role alongside Feliciano Lopez. And the more I read into this, the more they're definitely spinning this as like a way that they can level the playing field. There's no other tournaments that have a female and a male tournament director, but it is reminding me of, they did have some incidents in the past with Mr. Feliciano around Cake Gate.
Cake Gate.
Yes, yeah. And then the women's doubles winners weren't allowed to make a speech because of all of it. And then I even remember, Kim, and this may be completely rogue, but I think they drafted in my favourite, Daniela Hadjikova, to handle player relations because Feliciano needed a babysitter. So Garbiñe, hopefully she's coming in on an equal footing, equal salary, and equal platform. Otherwise, this would be a bit of a nonsense. But she's doing well in her post-tennis career, isn't she? She's definitely still playing a big role. The last role she had was the tournament director of the WTA finals, which won't be in Riyadh soon. So, I mean, she's got the Madrid Open now. So I think they're very
Yeah.
happy to have her.
Expanding her portfolio, and there are other events that she could move on to. But yeah, I think Feliciano Lopez, he can learn a lot from her. I think about
How
bringing
to play tennis as well, actually. Yeah.
equity into the tournament. But yeah, also on the court as well
Slams,
as
how to win them.
yeah, as well as in the boardroom. So yeah, welcome on board to Garbiñe. That's what she was getting geared up for. So it's exciting that we now know that. I saw something funny in the past week, and also sort of based in Spain. Very Spanish theme to
Spanish
today's
week
episode.
this week. Joel's in Spain, and we're only talking about Spain, and the tournament's in Spain. So
should have bought a sangria
we
while
should
we
have,
recorded this.
or
That
like
would have
had a
been
little flag
nice.
behind us, or a little
Yeah.
hat could be nice. A Mallorcan
But
spritz actually is what we should have had. Yes.
yes, because you had one of those when you
I
recently
tried to
went.
convince you, and you
Yeah.
said you weren't necessarily a fan of the orange
Stick to
drinks.
I'll stick to Hugo's, I think. Yeah. I'm
Mm.
just I'm not as keen on the whole Aperol orangey kind of vibe.
You're too
But
chic
yeah,
for that. Yeah, sorry.
the Masked Singer. I don't know if you've ever watched the Masked Singer. I think it's on in most like main Western countries now. I think have their own version of it. The Spanish have a version of it, and I laughed when I saw this because a certain Martina Navratilova was on the Masked Singer, and she was dressed up as a mop. She had a mop costume on. So the whole premise of the show, for those who don't know, is that you sing a song, but you're a celebrity, but you're disguised in a costume, and that could be anything. It could be like a bumblebee or an alien or something. But
Well, the
she was a
bumblebee
mop.
would be Alcaraz, that's for sure. Right. The
Sinner would be a
carrot,
carrot.
yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Why the mop? Did we ever find out? And
Is it because she cleaned up on the court, won lots of
oh,
titles?
could be that. I mean, she said she'd always want to be a mop, but what is mop in Spanish? Do we know?
Oh, I don't know. I've never really learnt the words for cleaning implements.
You never made it
It's
that far. That's
never
level
did any
4.
cleaning
You
when I
never
was
did
in
any
Spain.
cleaning, yeah.
Never needs to buy a mop. Yeah. It's quite a nice mop though. If you see the photo of it, I think it's quite fun.
She could
It
head to
looks
a
like a
red
very
carpet, yes.
smiley mop. Yeah, maybe she'll turn up at the Laureus Sports Awards in that outfit.
And she
Um,
didn't win though, then I'm guessing, if she was been revealed.
yeah, and she sung a song by Freddie Mercury. How can I go on?
She didn't.
Which
That
she
was
didn't
it for
go
her.
on. Yeah, I don't actually know that song. I have to Google it. But Fragona is the name for mop, I think, in Spanish.
Oh,
Fragona, I think it says.
fantastic.
I've just had a bit of a Google, but yeah, I think maybe more tennis players could do the Masked Singer. I think Djokovic would
Oh,
be
he'd
up
be
for
really
it.
good. He'd be
Yeah.
good at that. I think Billie
Would he
Jean
be a
King.
goat?
Oh, he could be a goat. I think Billie Jean King did it, didn't she? Already done it. Is that true? Have I made
Oh,
that up?
possibly.
Or was
Could
it
be on a different
Muguruza? Or was she on
countries.
Bake Off?
She was on Bake Off, and we've
Mm,
had a number of celebrities do like Strictly Come Dancing.
mm.
Cornet did the Traitors in France. So yeah, quite a
The
big
pipeline
like
is strong from
audience.
ex-tennis to reality TV star singer in this case. But I mean, was she any good at singing?
Not I think stick to tennis.
Stick
Yeah,
to
or
tennis.
punditry.
We
But
should probably stick to the tennis as well, Kim.
yes, we should because it's not Mars Singer Weekly, it's
No,
Tennis Weekly.
Muguruza
So
Weekly.
let's stay in Spain now because we did have the Barcelona Open last week, the Sabadell Open, which is obviously they all play on Pista Rafa Nadal, and a certain Arthur Fils won on that very court, overcoming Andrei Rublev in straight sets to claim his very first title in quite a while, actually, for Arthur Fils, his first since he had that big injury last year. Yeah, 6-2, 7-6, coming through to get the title in Barcelona. He could have got it done a lot easier, but he had a bit of a meltdown in the second set. And Rublev was able to come back But he got it done in a tiebreak in the end and really showed some grit to get it done after that wobble. But yeah, Arthur Fils, first title for him since Tokyo 2024. It's about 18 months ago. And yeah, he's having a cracking year, isn't he, Chris? And I think evidenced by picking up this 500 title.
Yeah, and he deserves it. I was at that match where he battled through and then ended up doing himself a serious back injury in Paris in front of a home crowd at last year's Roland-Garros. So that was very sad scenes, especially for a young player. But I think he's learned his lesson, to really not kind of push it if you're not feeling good. He's taken the time to come back, and quite a long time he was out. So I think this must feel even sweeter. And from the celebrations, I love it when they jump into the pool, Kim.
Yeah, it's
I'm sure you've
iconic.
seen Rafa do that many times.
Many times.
Yes, indeed. His yearly dunk, I think is probably what he called it at that point. A cold dip, maybe not so cold if it's in Barcelona, but he played fantastic tennis as well. And this is something that Joel and I, we've always debated is, who has the highest ceiling? Is it, Arthur Fils or is it Jack Draper? I've been in the Fils camp, he's been in the Draper camp. And based on what Rublev said, he said it's kind of ridiculous how well Fils is playing at moments in that final. And this week he's looked so good. I mean, straight sets against Musetti, very impressive, winning some great matches as he went through the tournament. So I would say he showed some great tennis by the end of it and showed how high his level could be, but it was quite close in that first match he played, Kim.
Yes, against Terence at Man, he had to save 2 match points, so it was a bit touch and go early on.
Yes.
But then after that, he got through Nakashima, Musetti, and a certain Rafael Hodar as well, who's obviously like the young, new, up and coming Spaniard who's been making waves over the last few weeks. So, yeah, beating kind of more established talent, but also young, new talent as well. And obviously, Fils is still a young talent, new talent himself, relatively speaking. So, yeah, really good, solid week. And Rublev, obviously, very experienced player in the final, was actually in the Barcelona final for the first time, but has won Madrid
Hmm.
previously, for example. So he does know his way around a clay court. But yeah, he was very complimentary about the level that Fils brought to the court. And he was, very, very complimentary, saying he's one of the best players on tour. And this year, I mean, Fils is sixth in the live race to the, ATP final. So it's evidenced by the kind of points that he's amassing and the results he's been getting this year. And he's in the actual rankings is up to 25 in the world. And you've got to think, coming back after that injury, like where can he go? Where will he be at the end of 2026, Chris?
Oh, that's a great question. I think there's a lot of hard to know at the start of the year, given the fact that he'd been out for so long. I think the talent is there. I mean, I've talked about that before. He's so good. He's such a big hitter. I think maybe some of the discipline, he'll get that as he kind of gets more mature. I think we've seen it with other players that they mature and they do get that kind of discipline. I think sometimes, that first match, there is that mental side of things and the wobble in the final, but that does come with experience. And I mean, he's putting it together on the tour and he's getting some good wins. So I reckon he's going to be moving towards top 15, no problem. I'd love it if he broke top 10. I don't think we talked about it before. It's not as hard as you think to crack the top 10 these days. And in fact, he's done something that the world number 3 hasn't done for a year, which is win a title. Because Zverev, his last title was in Munich. So, I mean, it's wide open for someone to get up into top 10. But will he challenge Alcaraz and Sinner? I mean, we're probably getting ahead of ourselves there. But either way, a great result. And I have to say, a great result for one of your new faves that we just talked about, who I like to call Jordar, and you like to call,
Hodar?
I don't know, the better version. Yes.
But he's up to 42 in the world
Where
now.
did that come
Um,
from? What a start
it's
to the
a
season.
astronomical rise. And I'm wondering if he could get a seeding before Roland Garros, if he does well in Madrid. Is there time for him to be seeded? I mean,
Yeah, I
that would
mean, he
be going
probably could
some,
get
but
seeded, but otherwise you wouldn't want to play him in round one. I mean, he could have Alcaraz, Hodar round one.
yeah, I mean, he's a very dangerous floater in the draw. Regardless of if he's seeded or not, I think we don't really have much to, people who won't have played him before. He's new. He's up for it.
Nothing to
So
lose.
absolutely, yeah. So definitely one to watch. And I mean, talking of Alcaraz, Chris, he's a bit questionable for Roland Garros. Actually, his participation because he was spotted at Alicante. Wearing a cast on his right arm. So that doesn't bode well. Obviously, he picked up an injury and pulled out of Barcelona, and his coach said it would be about 3 to 4 weeks for recovery, which is cutting it fine for the French. So, oh, I mean, what do you make of this? Is he going to be on that court to defend his title?
That's a tricky one. Also, I have completely misled you. I think it was Feliciano Lopez that said it was 3 to 4 weeks. So he actually has no clue how long it
Oh,
would be. But
right.
it
I
was
thought it was
based
Samuel Lopez,
Samuel
his
Lopez. Yes,
coach.
sorry. No, I think it was based on a previous injury that Lopez had that he was talking about the fact that he
Right.
won't be in Madrid. It doesn't look great. Wrist injuries, we know, are very dangerous. They can be career ending. You know, Laura Robson, other players have had really bad wrist injuries that has been so hard to come back from. You know, the same with Dominic Thiem. It does make you think that 3 to 4 weeks is not ideal preparation when it comes to Roland-Garros or the physical nature of clay. I think you probably would prefer if it was on something with shorter points and maybe not in Grand Slam season because, you know, lots of points to defend. Slams is where Alcaraz plays his best tennis. So you have to hope that it's more precautionary, but it does look quite ominous, this sort of cast that he has on. And you just have to think, you know, if you're Jannik Sinner, it's the perfect opportunity, you know, to not only pick up more masters, but it could be a chance to really kind of seize the opportunity if maybe Alcaraz isn't fully fit going into the French Open. So, I mean, you don't want to see it. It's very sad, but it does lead the question, you know, Kim, should he have played in Barcelona at all after that final? I mean, it was so soon after. It was something like 48 hours from Monte Carlo to
Yeah.
Barcelona. And I mean, to what end? I mean, he was going to play every week of the clay season. Is that a
I
case of
think
bad scheduling now?
I think if the tournament hadn't been in Spain, he might have not played it. But I think it being at home, you know, you want to turn up for home fans, and you know, Rafa always used to play all of them, and you know, I think it's big, the Spanish element is probably a big deal, but yeah, not wise in hindsight if he had a niggle there as well, or it was building. And you know, it's frustrating because Sinner could be running away picking up masters left, right, and centre over the next few weeks, gaining all those points, and he's not even able to be on the court. And you know, it's real sort of chalk and cheese, isn't it, between the two of them?
Yeah, it's
So we
tough
just
the
have
way
to.
that pans out, isn't it? But I mean, we
Hmm,
hope that we'll get more great contests, but also we have to hope the rest of the field really up their game. But it seems like a lot of people are struggling with injuries at the moment. I mean, there's quite a big list of players that won't be in Madrid, and you know, Draper also had to retire,
yeah,
unfortunately, in
he's
his first
out.
match, yeah, on clay, and now he's out for until I think the week before the French Open. So it's not an easy sport, is it, tennis, Kim?
No, and with Draper, it's actually a different issue than the sort of arm thing he's been managing. It's a knee issue this time. So sometimes you just think you can never get a break, and it's just really frustrating. And I suppose that's the nature of professional sport sometimes, but it doesn't make it any easier to deal with. But yeah, we've got Arthur Feast though. He had a cracking week, so we'll have to see what he can do
Well,
for the
he's
rest of
coming
the clay
back from
season.
injury, so we must celebrate the fact, you know, that
Yeah, that's the other side of it. The other side, once you've been through it, and you get that the glory sweeter for going through those difficulties. Um, and one player as well who's had quite a sweet week was Ben Shelton out in Munich because he picked up his fifth ATP title and second on clay, beating Flavio Caboli in straight sets in the final. And Ben Shelton has now got three ATP 500 titles, and he's the first American to have actually done that since the ATP 500s were introduced in 2009. So, yeah, really, really impressive stuff. And, you know, he's sort of talked about how he's got real ambitions for clay. He wants to get better year on year, and he's enjoying it more and more. And I think that was kind of evidence throughout the course of this week. You know, he had wins over Fonseca, um, some German, Alexander Block. Oh no, he's Belgian. I thought
Belgium,
he was
yes.
German. Yeah, I made that mistake last week, didn't I? Just yeah.
You were going for an
Anyway,
all German final. I've let you
I
off the
was going
hook
for an all
there.
German
Was
final. I'm
it
just desperate.
Altmaier versus Zverev?
Oh, well, we had an American against an Italian, so I was really far off
Mm.
the mark there. But yeah, Shelton coming through, and obviously Caboli, decent clay court himself. But yeah, Shelton getting the job done, and I mean, best American on clay in a long while. Would we now say?
Well, I mean, the fact that he's won a title above ATP 250 level on clay means that he's the first American since Agassi in Rome in 2002. I I mean, that feels
in Europe.
crazy. In
Yeah,
Europe, yes, sorry, I
gosh.
should have made that clear. I
Yeah.
mean, that's just genuinely very, very surprising when you look at that as a statistic. So I think it's great. I think, he should be great on it. I think his attitude is quite gritty as well. He loves a fight, he loves a tussle. And I think that the surface really can just bring out the best in his sort of fighting mentality, never say die. And I also think what's nice about this is that, heading into Madrid, we do know that Madrid does favour a big server, and Shelton has a fantastic first serve, a great kicker of a second serve. It almost kind of goes over people's heads. So he could be a real dark horse when it comes to Madrid, and possibly the person I might think is best placed to upset Jannik Sinner's apple cart. So I think it's a great start for the season for him on clay, and I think probably now he's sort of put in a good performance. I think he's eyeing up, hang on a minute, I can make up some points here, and there are some good ranking positions that I could go up here. So a great performance from him, and I do think it would have been nice if Zverev had managed to, put in a bit more of a performance, because I do like, a bit more contest up there in the top of the ranking. So if Zverev can't do it, then why not Ben Shelton?
Yeah, I mean, Zverev won this title last year, but hasn't won anything since then. Which, we were talking about this last week, how far off in points he is off the top two. And it just seems, yeah, he's in a real lull and isn't
Mm.
really making waves. Or, I mean, and he's played very well on clay before. I mean, imagine, think back to his Roland-Garros of yesteryear. He can play on this surface. He's just not quite where he needs to be at the moment. But I suppose you might say, well, these are all warm up events. And yes, this was, one of his home events
Well,
in
he's going to
Germany.
win
But
Madrid, isn't he now? Let's be honest. It's probably what's going to
we've,
happen.
yeah, he's enjoyed Madrid before, hasn't he, of the courts there. So I don't think, yeah, the fact that he's not done so well here would mean that he's going to, do terribly in Madrid or anything. He can just sort of turn it on, can't he? And yeah, he lost to Caboli here, but still got a few wins under his belt, and it's all practice building up to the big one, isn't it? Roland Garros. So, but well done, Ben Shelton, yeah, for picking up all the three ATP 500 titles, first first man from America in a long time to get a 500 on clay. So he's going in the right direction. He just needs to, I think, get, I guess, more bigger wins on clay now against top 10 opponents, for example. That would be his next mission. But that brings us on, I think, now to the WTA events, Chris, because we had a couple of WTA events that we are going to cap off, starting in Stuttgart, where we had Elena Rybakina picking up the indoor title on the indoor clay there. And well, this is the first time she's actually won a title, the same title, for the second time, because she won this event 2 years ago, and she's kind of come back and done it again, getting a second Porsche, which is what you get for winning. So I don't know what she'll do with that one, but she'll need to expand her garage. But she got the better of Karolina Muguruza in straight sets in the final, 7-5, 6-1. So what did you make of Rybakina's week in Stuttgart?
Well, I was looking at some numbers. I think she's underrated on clay because she's won a lot of matches on the dirt, and you forget that actually, she's not necessarily a grass court specialist. She has had some really good, really solid results in this part of the season, and that's actually where things started to build a bit for her last year, especially. So I would say very impressed with her. I mean, she did almost go out, Leo Fernandez. More match points saved. It seems a bit of a theme this week is, the
Mm.
comeback victory then allows you to keep going. But very, very dominant when it came to beating sort of Andreeva and Mukova. And they were almost mirror images, those two matches, the way that she came through them. And both players that give you a lot of variety. And she seemed to be perfectly on song. So I actually do love the fact that she's playing so well. I also really like the fact that we have a bit more of a contest on this side when it comes to the world number one. Again, we've talked about Alcaraz and Sinner. It really is kind of a tug of war. Constantly changing potentially in the next few weeks and months what will happen, and hopefully the WTA we might also get a little bit of that as well. So I like the fact that she's playing the tennis that she should be able to play. I do think on her day she's the best player in the world, and Kim, I'd quite like her to get there one day.
Well, yeah, because if you look at the number of points that Sabalenka has to defend up to sort of the rest of the clay season, she's got, I think, about 2,500 points to defend. Because obviously last year she won Madrid, quarterfinals in Rome, and finalist at Roland-Garros. But Rybakina has only got about 870 points during that period, so she may not clinch the number one spot. But if she has a very good clay season and Sabalenka less so, she'll be a lot closer. So it's not, I think, out of the world of possibility, but like I think, maybe going into the grass courts, it could be quite close, and that would be really, really quite exciting at the top of the game then on the women's side for someone to take that number one ranking off Sabalenka.
Is she going to do it, Kim? That's my question. I think
Oh,
she will.
I think, yeah, I suppose even if Sabalenka doesn't lose that many points, she's not going to gain many more, and she'd have to.
Well, maybe not
win
in
all
clay
three
season.
titles.
In grass season, I think it's much
Over
more
the grass.
feasible. Yes.
Yeah, or by the US hardcourt swing potentially, depending on how things have gone.
Because she was upset at Wimbledon by a Dane in the wind in Clara Towson.
Clara Towson.
Yes,
yeah.
indeed. So fourth round, I think she can go far better, Kim, maybe this year. So the race is on. I think I said in our predictions, but how many number ones will we have on the WTA this year? I think I said 3. I think I said Rybakina and Anisimova, and one of those is looking potentially likely.
Maybe 2 then. Just revise your prediction down slightly from 3 to 2.
Dial it down a notch when it comes to those predictions. But I mean, someone else will be hoping to maybe get in the mix there will be Iga Swiatek now with her new coach, her first week back on tour. Kim, I was going to ask, were you impressed by these performances? We only got 2 matches of her in the end before she went out to Mira Andreeva, player she's lost to, I think, 3 times on the trot. What were your thoughts on, the much anticipated sort of Iga comeback?
Yeah, it's disappointing. It's not really the return she would have been hoping for, or kind of, early days with her new coaching partnership. Less ideal than I would have wanted, but clearly Andreeva knows she can beat her. Like, she's got that confidence and that energy to do so, and I think that does say a lot when you kind of going into someone like Swiatek, who previously was so undefeatable on this surface. So I think that's now changed. But I think Swiatek, she was quite positive, relatively speaking, afterwards when she was asked about it. She said she's got a clear vision of what she needs to do, and it's just hard to execute. But she did feel there were moments where she was playing a lot better. So I guess she's trying to think positively, and that's more than she was doing beforehand. So I think, it's not all doom and gloom. I think if she can improve with each passing week, I still think she would be a danger at Roland-Garros, given that she's won it 4 times before.
Yeah.
So I
think
the conditions,
early days, don't you think? I think Stuttgart, I think you do get some more surprising results, and I think it's a bit trickier. It doesn't really play like a traditional clay court because it's obviously not built in the same way. It's not got all of that sort of rock underneath it. It's very much in a stadium where you can drive cars and all sorts on it. So that was one thing before we move on, Kim. I did love the fact that Rybakina revealed that she learned to drive and passed her test on the Porsche she won in 2024. Yeah. I mean, that's
quite a nice car to learn to drive in, isn't it?
I'm not sure, if many people can say that's the thing that, made her decide to get her license. I mean, that's quite iconic, I think. And now, learning is paid off because now she can drive another one.
She can. She's got her pick of the Porsches to drive in, and other players will be hoping to get their hands on one next year. Maybe Muguruza can go one better next year, because she had a great week as well, getting wins over Goff and Svitolina, and we did obviously say that we have all predicted her, I think, at one point to win a slam, and she's made the Roland-Garros final before, so she's maybe peaking at the right time, and we'll have to keep an eye on her, because you don't want to face her, I think, at any slam when she's in reasonably good form. So one to watch there for the rest of the clay season. And last but not least, Chris, we had a Rouen event, WTA 250 out in France. And that was an all Ukrainian final, which doesn't happen too often. It's the very first WTA final between two Ukrainians. And that was between Marta Kostyuk and Veronika Podres. So we all pretty much know Marta Kostyuk, don't we? Podres, very new on the scene, 19-year-old qualifiers, was her first major debut on the WTA tour. So fantastic for her to go all the way to the final, but it was Kostyuk getting the job done in straight sets over Podres. Were you quite impressed though with what you saw from Podres? Is she one that we should be looking out for good prospects?
I think so. I mean, I was hugely impressed with the way that she sort of hit Sloane Stephens off the court. I mean, I make it very clear I'm a big Sloane Stephens fan. I think she is so good on a clay court. I think she plays the best tennis on a clay court. And I mean, this 19-year-old qualifier came out of nowhere and just absolutely blitzed it. And I mean, her backhand is such a big weapon. And I always think it's so impressive when, you make a debut and you win through, you get a great result. And I think it really shows what you're made of when you kind of step up to this big level. So very dangerous. And I'm sure we're going to hear an awful lot more from her. But I mean, her Ukrainian countrywoman did get the benefit of her. And it seems like Kostyuk's got things back on track as well. She's very good on clay. So I think not the most challenging draw, but at the same time, a title's a title, as we always say, Kim.
Absolutely. So yeah, full credit to Kostyuk winning that one as the number one seed. And that brings us to a quick break now, but do join us in the second half where we'll be discussing the French Open banning behind the scenes cameras, former Wimbledon champion Markéta Vondroušová's doping charge, and we'll be previewing the Madrid Open as well. So do not go anywhere. Welcome back to the Tennis Weekly podcast. And let's kick off the second half, as always, with a game. Now, there's just two of us this week, Chris. So I think we've got a mysterious player, which we haven't done in a while. So you're quizzing me, and our listeners, of course, can follow on as well. So yeah, over to you.
Are you up
What's
for
it
it,
going to
Kim? It's been a
be? I'm
while.
very up for it. Yeah. Bit under
Yes.
pressure, but
I've
up
not been
for
in
it.
the Quizmaster seat. I mean, Joel's just been absolutely hogging it. I think we've almost fell into the routine that he always gets to put us through our paces.
Yeah.
So, Kim, no weeks off for you, unfortunately. But you
It's all
are
good. I love
our
a quiz. I
yes,
love a
it's
quiz,
good you love
as
a
you know.
quiz. Yes, you do, as our listeners know as well. Um, I have a mysterious player. The way this works, for those who haven't done this with us before, I will be revealing certain clues about a mysterious player, and then Kim will have one guess each round. She doesn't have to guess, she can pass if she wants another clue, but you may as well have a guess. And that's probably the most entertaining element of this is when Joel guesses someone who's 30 years younger than the person we have told their date of birth of. So do play along. There's no bad answers. It's all a bit of fun. I'm not sure how many clues I have. I've got quite a few here. So I think we could probably kind of work our way through them and see at what point Kim gets this right. Hopefully she will, and we don't run out of clues. But without further ado, in traditional Tennis Weekly style, I will start with a date of birth.
Oh, okay.
And
Right.
you
I
better
remember
get it
you
off
got
this.
one. Well, you got one once off someone's date of
Was it
birth,
Joe
which
Conter or
is,
something
yeah, it was
ridiculous? Maybe we're
ridiculous.
both
Yeah.
May babies. I can't remember. But I was born in 1988 on the 4th, no, the 14th of April.
Okay. Also, recently they've just had their birthday and they are now 37, 38. Yes, 38. I forgot what
Joel
year it
would
was for a
never have
minute.
worked that one out. So you're already up.
38. So they're probably retired or still playing, but in the twilight of their career. Shall I guess someone now?
Ooh.
Um, uh, ooh, who's quite old?
I'm
um,
sorry to whoever this mysterious player is.
Richard Gasquet.
Okay,
No,
right. Richard
he's the
Gasquet,
same
we've
year
gone
as
for.
as he's born, and I think the same year as Rafa. But yeah, it's someone.
Not a bad guess, but we go on. My current ranking is 93.
Okay, so still playing. Don't know if it's a man or a woman. Just Kuznetsov come to mind, but I really don't
Oh,
think she's got a ranking
okay.
at
You do
all.
you do have
Oh,
to guess. Oh,
It could be Zvonareva, maybe. Or is she, no, she's over 40, isn't she? Zvonareva. I'll just say her.
Okay,
I think
so
she's
we've
over
swapped to
40,
the
isn't
women's
she?
side of things. I can tell you that is not a correct answer.
Okay.
My ATP career high
Ah,
was number 9 in 2019.
right. Okay, so that
This is actually quite
was
hard this week, isn't it, Kim Spree?
that's all right. That was 7 years ago when they were 31 and they were ranked nine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then now 93. Oh, is it Stan Wawrinka? No.
It's not a
No, he's
bad
been higher than
guess. He's
that.
he's
He's been
been
higher
quite a
than
lot
that.
higher and he is older
Yeah.
than that. So it's wrong on many levels, but I guess we're continuing again. Um, I am going to choose a clue. I've got three here lined up, but I'm going to say my career best result in a major was at Wimbledon, where I made the semi-finals in 2019.
Oh, I think I've oh oh okay. 29. Oh no, I'm thinking 2018. Um, was it this person? Oh, I know who it is.
Do you?
Yes. Well, I had tickets in the ballot for the men's semi-finals of Wimbledon
Really?
2019, but I didn't go.
What
My
were you
mum
doing,
went.
Kim?
Well, I was working in Portugal at the
Hard to go to
time,
Wimbledon whilst you're working in
and
Portugal.
I'd already booked to go back for like the first week, and then so I didn't
Mm.
want to go back again because of the flights and everything. So my mum went and she saw Roger against Rafa, and she also saw Novak Djokovic against Roberto Bautista Agut, who is the answer you're
That is
looking for.
correct. Yes, said with true confidence. And my final clues were going to be I won the Davis Cup alongside Rafael Nadal.
Mm.
And then, if you really didn't get that, I was going to say I announced that 2026 will be my final year on the tour with my final clue. So, well done, Kim. All it took was that tiny nudge, and then you were absolutely sure. And that was the year, actually, famously, where he had to cancel his stag do because he did so
Yeah.
well at Wimbledon. I did think it was his wedding in my memory. Then I did Google it, and stag do feels like, to be honest, maybe he didn't really fancy going, and that's why he played so well and made it so far. I think
And
Sabalenka
a
cancelled her wedding once, right?
legitimate excuse that the fiance probably couldn't question too much. Yeah.
Exactly.
Um, But no, thank you very much, listeners. Let us know how you got on with that. Were you screaming RBA at your speakers like long before I got it?
RBA, yes, Kim.
Yeah, well, he'll be missed. I mean, he was also the one that was it Andy Murray lost to him in his first retirement in
Yes,
Australia.
that was a
So
tough one.
people may remember him for that as
We don't
well.
hold that against him now because Murray did
No,
come
no.
back. Yes.
Yeah. So yes, it's just that awkward video, wasn't it? But let's now let's
We'll
now
move
dive
on
in.
from that.
Let's dive into the mailbag because Carol got in touch with us on email and she was referring to a situation that happened at the Barcelona Open last week that she saw and wanted to question us on. She said that she was watching the Barcelona Open last week and saw Nuno Borges serve an underarm ace on match point against Thomas Etcheverry. And I wanted to ask, why are underarm serves so frowned upon when they are perfectly legal? Etcheverry looked furious, but is there an unwritten rule on the matter, or is it a case of sour grapes from Etcheverry, as he was made to look silly at a crucial point of the match when he didn't see it coming? Love this. So thanks, Carol, for getting in touch. It's really, really great. And do keep them coming, everyone. Because yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Underarm serves. It's not technically illegal. Is that right, Chris?
Yep,
But,
perfectly
but
legal.
perhaps not in the spirit of things. That's sort of my initial thoughts on this. I can
Mm.
understand why Etcheverry was a bit, annoyed.
Yes, I can also, from the perspective of looking a bit silly, as Carol says, in my mind, I think players need to be more prepared from this because I think it's being increasingly used on the tour. I think you can't really let yourself stand so far back that you open yourself up for that. So it's probably more of a tactical error from Echeverry in this sense. But I mean, on match point, maybe we forgive Etcheverry for getting so annoyed because it's a pretty rough way to lose a match with an ace on an underarm serve. I mean, that's got a sting. Or an unreturnable serve. I can't remember what it was, but there's no reason why you can't do it. And I think that's the point, is that in the gentleman's rules of the game, it's kind of frowned upon as not necessarily being like a fair and square sort of thing. But I mean, if you can use it as a tool, if you've got a good underarm serve, it can actually kind of give you a great result. But Kim, I was going to say, I mean, it doesn't often end well, the underarm serve. And the reason why it's not used and is only used on some occasions is because of the element of surprise. It might throw your opponent off. Not often used on a match point, that's for sure. It is risky.
Yeah, I think when I've seen them live or when I've been watching, on the telly, I would say about 50% of them pay off. I've seen quite a lot that have just gone wrong or they've not been executed well or what have you. So personally, I think for me on a match point, it is a bit of a risk. I don't think I'd be bold enough to try it, but fortune favors the brave. So if Nuno Borges felt so inclined, I think, maybe he sensed it was the right thing to do. But yeah, I think
If
if
you'd have
you're going to be
lost the
doing
match,
that,
though, imagine
I
having
know
like, oh,
you wouldn't do it at a Grand Slam final, would you?
maybe
I don't
Coritin
think.
Mute would.
Yeah, but also if you do this too often, people will be expecting it
Yes.
because you'll get a reputation. So you really do have to keep that element of surprise. So it's quite a tactic behind the tactic, I think. Got to be more
Mm.
strategic around it. So, but
But
were
either way,
you
it's
when you went?
fine, isn't it, to do that? I think
Yeah,
that's the main
when
point. Mm.
when you went to the tennis academy in Mallorca,
Yes.
were you coached on an underarm serve at all?
Um, Thankfully, the serve is actually the strongest element of my game,
Oh,
Kim. So
really?
there's no
Okay.
need for an underarm serve to try and get, a cheeky point there. For me, it's overarm aces all the way. Having said that, I'm sure my serve will disappear at crucial moments, and I'm not above it, Kim. Put it that way. Getting the serve in the box, wherever you need to. That's probably what I'd say is the order of the day. And if that's the only way he could do it in that moment, then there's no problem. So, Carol, our answer is I think Etcheverry was a bit embarrassed probably in that moment that it went down in that way. Is that fair? Do we think, Kim?
Yeah, I'm just picturing Etcheverry's face with some grapes dangling that have gone
Sour
off.
grapes is quite a good
I love
expression,
the
isn't it?
expression. Yeah. But no, thanks, Carol, for getting in touch. And listeners, do keep them coming. We'd love to hear from you and answer your questions. Um, we're going to delve into some topical news, though, that has come out in recent days. And that does concern the Wimbledon champion of 2023, Markéta Vondroušová, because she has been charged with refusing a doping test by the ITIA, otherwise known as the International Tennis Integrity Agency. And this is because she denied a doping officer entry to her home to conduct the test. So the rules are players have to give their whereabouts for an hour each day so that these doping officials can potentially pop by and conduct a test anytime, outside of obviously competition. And they are actually able to come and do that any time of the day. It doesn't have to be in those hours that have been specified. But Vondroušová is basically she is challenging the charge because she is for a number of reasons, one of which is that she did not understand a doping official could come to do the test at any time of the day. She thought it had to be within the window of the hour that is given for each day. So
Mm.
that's one of the things. But she's also stating that she felt threatened by the doping official that turned up,
By the
that it was
doper.
by the doper, by the guy selling her the drugs. No,
Yeah.
that the person came very late in the night, that she felt threatened, that she even quoted the awful incident that happened with Petra Kvitova when she was attacked in her home back like 10 years ago now. And Vondroušová has kind of come out to say that she has been having, some mental health issues. And, this is all kind of factored into the fact that she was not in a position to do this doping test when it was attempted in December of last year. So at the moment, she's still able to play. It doesn't mean that she's automatically banned. But there is, she is being charged and awaiting a investigation at the moment, but she's not actually playing at the moment because she's injured. But she's not happy with this whole process. She's very much sort of spoken out on social media about it all. But I mean, tell our listeners, Chris, more on this, because you've been thoroughly researching it, haven't
Hmm.
you, and sort of getting up to speed with it more than I have, in all honesty. And I'd love to hear your take on it, because I know that you're very well practiced, shall we say, in the ins and outs of the doping landscape of tennis.
Yeah, unfortunately, you have to be these days. I mean, another Wimbledon champion with a doping offense, which is not a great thing. I think they're coming thick and fast, unfortunately, in recent years. And I mean, they are very different, a lot of them. So I think that's one thing to point out is that people are comparing, what happened with Jannik Sinner, what happened with Iga Swiatek, and the fact that, can you believe this is 4 years, and this could be what the ban would be if she's found that she did, you know, refuse a test. So that's what the big problem is here, is that she refused to be tested. So the person turned up, she said they didn't make it clear who they're coming from, and then she didn't take the test because she said it was outside of the window of testing. The problem that I have with this is that she's actively misleading people about the facts, because she posted at the time on social media that a tester arrived at 8:15 p.m. This happened on the day she posted this, and she actually took a picture of the official coming, and it's not unusual at all. And she's been an athlete, professional athlete, for a number of years to be tested outside of the window you provide. It is perfectly fine for that to happen. And the fact that these things are you can't announce them. They have to come unannounced, because that's the whole point, is that they have to, you don't know when you're going to be tested, so then it keeps the sport clean. So it's perfectly normal to hear that, between 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. you could be tested. So I think that's where she would know that rule. So that's why I don't really understand why she'd make such a big deal out of it. So either it's a case that she really is struggling with mental health, which I'm not sure, unfortunately, that I do believe, because the way it was put before was the fact that she was more annoyed with the fact that she didn't have privacy and someone was coming to her house. She did not say that she was terrified by this person at the time. What she said now is that she was terrified by this person, and she said they came late at night in her most recent statement. She already said 8:15, so there are already inconsistencies that are appearing. So I really want to know what the crux of this is. You have to have a pretty harsh charge, because if you refuse a test, that is something that means that there is no evidence that you were a clean athlete at that time, and that is the purpose of testing. So she knows better than to do this, unless she's really missed the mark and has no idea about this. But we talked about this before, Kim, and we'd love to know, has she been tested outside of her window before? I'm sure she has. So she knows that's the rule. It's not like they came at midnight. And it's not that these people are trying to break into your home. They're definitely not trying to do that. And she hasn't said that they popped up at the window, they climbed through a window, they smashed a window and came in. But I don't like the fact that she's making out this person is threatening, whilst also taking pictures of them and posting it to the internet, after saying that she faces all sorts of abuse online that's made her nervous. Well, what about the person who's trying to do their job, who's trying to check if you are a clean athlete or not? So lots of inconsistencies that I don't enjoy about this, but there is a slight precedent around this. And again, not the same thing, but Serena Williams, she was having issues, I believe, with a stalker at the time. She actually went to her panic room in 2012 when a doping official came to her house and her assistant rang 999. It wasn't a case that there was a doping charge that went through in that way. And there are other places where, for example, Olympic gold medalist Jay Jones, a GB athlete, she cited mental impairment through dehydration as the reason she refused the test. And that's what the UK Athletics did accept the claim and reach a no-fault decision. So, I mean, there are ways that you can potentially get around these if there are sort of mental health issues. So I think probably that's most likely what's going to happen here, Kim. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's not a good look. And if you do know that you could be tested outside of your time, there's no reason why you wouldn't know that that would have a ban attached to it. Maybe you should know the length of the ban. That's probably a very long way of answering it, Kim, but I think she knew that there would be repercussions. I don't think she had any idea it would be 4 years, unless she's got something to hide.
I think, would it have been better if she just not answered? Like, the picture she posted back in December looks like I think it's a lady. Apparently, it's a German lady, I think, that was doing it. It looks like they're in the doorway of an apartment building. So I would Vondroušová had sort of spoken to her on the buzzer and the sort of, or let her in the main door and then spoken on the intercom, found out
Mm,
what she was there for. But would it have been better if she'd just, not answered the door, not spoken to her, sort of hidden out the back,
mm,
pretended that she didn't hear anyone come to the
mm.
door. But I suppose she didn't know it was the tester at that time. But
I
I
mean,
don't know. I just
yeah,
feel,
refusing a test is a
yeah,
very big thing in that sense. So uh, that's the issue, really, because if they
mm,
are unable to find you, if they can't
because it's
find you,
outside of, you're
well,
only having to give an hour, so you can do what you like the
yeah, you might
other
not be at the
23 hours of the
location they gave you.
day. Yeah.
Your whereabouts,
Yeah.
that would
Yeah.
be very different to this. So maybe she was honest and said she was in, but then you have to take the test. So that's the big issue here. So
That's the dodgy
yes, we
element
will
to it.
keep you updated on that, but it is a shame that you kind of keep seeing these things and you have to question the integrity of the sport, and then it brings back in, the ITIA and all of that stuff comes back up, comparisons with other doping cases that cannot be compared. But at the same time, I think there's so many active attempts to mislead by players and, agents that I do think it's important to make it clear that everyone in tennis will know you cannot refuse a test without facing repercussions. And she's a very experienced athlete who would know that. So don't be fooled by the naivety of these posts.
Well, let's see how that develops, and we'll obviously bring any pertinent news and discuss it again, I'm sure. Let's now talk about the French Open, because there's been a press conference recently, and they've been kind of outlining some of the changes for this year's tournament. Some things they are doing, some things they're not. And there's a couple of things that have come out that like Amelie Mauresmo and co have been sort of stipulating. So, I mean, one thing that is happening is prize money is being increased by about 10%. So that's nice for the champions and the players, etc. I mean, who wouldn't want a prize package of 2.8 million euros for winning Roland Garros? But the other things that are kind of changing, or perhaps not changing, are the electronic line calling is still not going to be in place. Roland Garros is still not onboarding that software and that technology like the other slams. They are not going to be doing a 1 point slam like we saw at the AO. So there will be no hope for Parisian locals to
Ooh.
get their hands on €1 million there, sadly.
An
Uh,
point slam, that would have been quite nice, wouldn't it? We could have had
yeah.
a little bit of I mean, she said it was because of tradition, didn't she? It's not in keeping with the tournament. Is that a little dig at the
Yes.
Australian Open, do you think, Kim?
Well, I think also she was kind of like, we're not going to do everything just because others are doing it. Like, we're not, our ambition, she said, is not to repeat everything that's done elsewhere. But yeah, it's not something that corresponds to the image of Roland Garros. So maybe
Ooh.
she thinks it was like a bit of a cheap kind of
Well, I mean, they have their own things like Yannick Noah
promo
Day,
event.
and
But
they have other
each to
events,
their own.
and they've got
Each to their own.
they've got Monfils, his celebration. They do things their own way at the French Open,
Yeah.
right?
Well, they've got obviously Monfils' final Roland Garros. Stan Wawrinka as well, former champion, is his final slam. So they are going to be honouring with a special tribute those players. They are also not going to be allowing the player cameras behind the scenes, which we obviously had all that Coco Gauff kind of controversy at the AO where she was caught smashing her racket behind the scenes. So yeah, they've announced that they will be banning cameras in player areas. But after that, got quite a lot of criticism down under.
Well, that's a good
Um,
move. I do like that, and I do think that a lot of what she said is
mm,
very good in this because it's not needed. And I also think the fact that they are, making a stand on that, I think is good. I think they are almost saying like it's not growth at any cost. The players are not just a commodity that, people compared it to a zoo, and I think it's great that they are taking it this way. I think also Wimbledon is never a place where you can really see behind the scenes in that way either. There's a lot of mystery that goes on in those places. So no camera access. I'm sure the players will be rejoicing at that because we don't want players to feel like their privacy is completely violated. We were talking about that with Vondroušová just now, but um, I mean, it isn't on. So Mauresmo, I think she's got this one right.
yes. And I think the other thing she's got right personally is the wearable technology that players can wear like the devices, like the watches essentially that sort of track your biometrics. They are going to be allowed on a trial basis at Roland-Garros, and they're also being allowed at Wimbledon and the US Open on a trial. And that's something that Australian Open was not allowing. And I mean, for me, I thought that was a bit ridiculous not to allow it, because it's not allowing players to receive kind of coaching messages on their watches or whatever. It's just tracking all their vital stats for analysis afterwards. So personally, I think that's probably a very good innovation to have that sort of technology these days. But yeah, they've announced that will be allowed. So that's good. But yeah, anything else of note, Chris, for this year's tournament? We're about a month away. You're hopefully going to be there for the first part of it, which is exciting.
And I can track my activity on a wearable, which I'm thrilled about, Kim.
You can track how many steps you do around the around the site every
day. I consume.
How many calories?
Yes, how many calories? Yeah, maybe I don't want to track that.
Counteract the pastries.
Yeah, and I'm glad that no one's going to be filming me as I eat those croissants as well. So I feel much better about my trip to Paris.
What a relief!
What a relief, and hopefully, I'm not sure the prize money goes up for us, but no, always like a press conference with some nice additions and things that are actually answering player needs. So that's great. And they've also got the fan event at the Concorde is back for the second week. So positive for fans, positive for players. And some of the bugbears from Australia have already been put to rest.
Yeah. Absolutely, learning as we go and adapting. Let's now have a look at the Madrid Open, which is happening this week, of course. So obviously, Alcaraz is not in attendance because he's currently got that injury, but Sinner is playing. He'll be going for a record 5th Masters win in a row. So, that's potentially quite likely to happen. Rybakina is playing, I think, as well still. So she could,
Wait, Rybakina, didn't I say last week she wasn't playing in Stuttgart and then she won it?
And she was. Yes. So we think she's playing in Madrid. Like, she's not pulled out as far as we're aware.
I have to apologize to everyone for that. That was very misleading. You must be very confused. Yeah.
She just turned up
fashionably late. Yeah.
Really quite late in the day. So it seemed like she wasn't playing, but
I think
maybe she should do that here.
Yeah, the Stuttgart 1-point slam. Something like that she pulled out. I misread the headline.
She only cares about turning up to get the Porsche at the end of the week.
Yeah.
Got priorities. Djokovic is not in Madrid. Well, he is in Madrid. He's not at the tournament, but he is going to be hosting with Eileen Gu, who's the skier. He is hosting the Laureus Sports Awards. So he's, going into new career. Maybe is this a signal of what he's going to be doing after he's retired, hosting glamorous award ceremonies, perhaps. So yeah, to look out for that. But yeah, he's not actually playing tennis. I suppose one other person of note that is playing Madrid is Venus Williams. She is back on the clay. So yeah, I mean, how do you think she's going to get on, Chris?
I'm not sure it's going to get much better on clay, if I'm being completely honest. She's got
a fellow wild card in the first round.
Oh, does she?
Quevedo, a Spanish wild card.
Okay, fingers crossed. I mean, it would be so funny if after all of this, the win she gets this year is on clay of all places. But yeah, I mean, it's great she still wants to be there. Great they gave her a wild card because a lot of players had pulled out, I think. So maybe it was a last minute sort of thing because it was announced quite late, I think. So let's see how she does. But Kim, it's that time. It's predictions time.
Oh, yeah, mine haven't been great of late. So let's give it a whirl. Should we do women first? And we'll go.
Should we give all our quarters, do you think?
Yeah, let's do them on one swoop, one foul swoop. Shall I go first?
Yes, please.
Okay. I've gone for Sabalenka against Jessica Buzas-Monero.
Ooh,
I've gone for Leylah Fernandez against Mira Andreeva. Jessica Pegula against Coco Gauff. And then Christina Buxer against Elena Rybakina. So I've gone for 2 Spaniards in there on their home event.
The Spaniards are represented there. I like the sound of that.
How different are yours to mine?
Well, I've gone Sabalenka Baptiste. I've gone Swiatek versus Svitolina. So none of the same there. In Boko Gauff, I think she might get the edge on Pegula. And then I've gone as a rogue one, I went Somnes, Rybakina. So we're not too
Oh.
far apart. Similar principle of, a few out there, a few, fun results, but mostly quite the usual suspects.
Yeah, when it whittles down to it with the usual suspects. So my semi-final lineup is Sabalenka, Ondreeva, Goff, Rybakina. So no one surprising there particularly. Then I've gone for Sabalenka and Goff in the final. So I'm not going for Rybakina to make the final. Actually,
Ooh.
I don't know. Still feel like she's not necessarily the most consistent week after week. Like something normally comes up,
Mm.
sadly. But what about yourself?
I went for Sabalenka Svitolina and then Goff Rybakina as well. I had Rybakina coming through that one to face Sabalenka in the battle of what could be the future number one. And I have Sabalenka coming through. I know she plays really well in Madrid. I think the big serving Rybakina will get her to the final, but I'm not sure she's going to win two on the trot. I think it's a tough
Mhm.
ask, I think, for sure. So you've gone for Goff. I've gone for
I've gone for
Sabalenka.
Goff winning. Yeah, I feel like, yeah, I just feel like it's about time that Coco. I know she lost to Mukova last week in Stuttgart, but it wasn't. It wasn't a drumming. She got
It wasn't
say.
a
It was.
drumming.
It
It was the
wasn't.
first time she's ever lost to Mukova.
Yeah. But I just feel like they might give Coco the kick she needs, and I don't know. It's
She
about
had
time
that
she.
epic performance against Swiatek in Madrid last year. I think that was in the semi-finals where she
Yeah,
even produced a bagel. So
and she
maybe.
knows she can beat Sabalenka on a clay court. So
Okay.
happened last year. So we'll see. We'll see. So Goffel, Sabalenka are our champions. And let's now look at the men's draw. And we'll do our
We'll just say
predictions.
Jannik Sinner, right?
I mean, it's all going to end up being that, but let's go through the motions because there are going to be seven other players in the quarterfinals, and we've got to give them their due credit.
Yes.
What's your quarterfinal lineup for the men, Chris?
Well, I think Sinner's going to be upset. No, sorry, I don't. I think Sinner Rublev is what's going to happen. Shelton Lehechka. I've got Rue defending champion. I'm hoping he can put in a good performance and he'll play against FAA. He did have to retire against him. I think it was in Barcelona last week. We've got Dennis Shapovalov versus Zverev, and I think that's my quarterfinals. That's everything.
Okay, I went for Sinner against Fonseca,
Oh,
and then I went Shelton Lehechka as well. I went for Bublik against FAA, even though Bublik, like, I think lost first round of Munich. So not really sure why I've gone for that. I just thought, and then Kaboli against Zverev. So two players who did relatively well in Munich. Um, and then my semis, though, I went for Sinner, Shelton, FAA, Zverev. So sticking with the kind of more established
hmm,
quartet, somewhat. What about yourself, Chris?
almost a mirror image. I went Sinner Shelton, and then for the Scandinavians, I went Rude Zverev.
Oh, okay. So we've only got one difference. So I've got a Sinner Zverev final. What have you got?
I thought that was probably most likely, but again, I'm representing Casper. I'm willing him on that as a father, he's going to reach another Masters final.
And we both got Sinner winning,
Yeah,
though, I
we have.
assume.
Yes, yes, yes.
I mean, something may happen, but Sinner, yeah, would be looking on course very nicely for his fifth Masters in a row and getting
I
closer
mean, it is
to
so impressive if he
recapturing
does
world
do
number
that.
one.
I mean, he's already
Yeah.
number one.
Oh, he's already number one.
Yes, he
Yes,
is.
of
Yes.
course.
We did a
God,
whole thing on it, Kim.
we
Come
did a
on.
whole thing. Oh dear.
Maybe he's
Well,
not your number one, Kim.
he's not mine. Increasing his lead as world number
Yes,
one because Alcaraz is only going to drop points and Sinner's only going to gain points, so
that's
he can
very negative.
extend his lead.
Yes. Well, it looks
While
like that at this
Alcaraz
point, right?
marches on. It does look like that, yeah. But anything can happen. No, looking forward to Madrid. Hopefully there's no sort of cake gates this year. Um, it does feel like it's a tournament that does bring a bit of controversy. Like something happens every year that's a bit like not sure about that, but
Mm.
maybe hopefully we can avoid that now. And yeah, we'll be back next week to kind of round up Madrid, which is a big, obviously, joint Masters event. So That does wrap up our latest tour catch up here at Tennis Weekly HQ. We hope you've enjoyed the ride with us as usual. So do remember to subscribe so you don't miss a moment of ATP and WTA action this season. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and all your favorite podcast platforms out there. And if you love what you're hearing, then be sure to leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube.
And you can stay connected with us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, X, and Threads. The handle for all of those is Tennis Weekly Pod. And if you'd like to get in touch with us or tell us how well you did at Mysterious Player or submit a mailbag question, then drop us an email, tennisweeklypod@gmail.com. Or you can ask us on social media as well, or visit our website, tennisweekly.co.uk.
Yeah, and we will be back next week. I think Joel will be back from his gallivanting around Valencia. So we'll have to find out if he's managed to sneak to Madrid at all. He'll be back next week for another tour catch up. But until then, it's goodbye from Chris.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Tennis Weekly.